Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the deep space research vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His crew had been traveling for 3 months, collecting data from distant solar systems. It was supposed to be a routine mission, but Jake had learned that nothing in space was ever routine. The ship moved silently through the darkness between stars. Jake's crew of 25 scientists and support staff worked quietly at their stations. They were good people, experienced in deep space travel. Jake had handpicked each one of them for this mission. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at the communications console, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. She was the ship's expert on alien languages, though she had never actually encountered any aliens. Her job was to listen for any signals that might come from intelligent life. For 5 years, she had heard nothing but the background noise of space. Ryan Bell worked beside her at the secondary communications station. He was young but skilled at reading the patterns of radio waves and electromagnetic signals. Together, he and Lisa monitored every frequency they could detect. The ship's sensors suddenly began beeping. Ryan looked up from his console with surprise. "Captain, we're getting something strange." Jake walked over to the communications station. "What kind of strange?" Lisa frowned at her screen. "It's an electromagnetic burst from the Kepler 442 system. The signal is too strong to be natural, but the pattern doesn't match anything in our databases." "Could it be from one of our colonies?" Jake asked. "No, sir," Ryan replied. "We don't have any settlements in that system. According to our records, Kepler 442b is a dead rock. No atmosphere, no life signs, nothing that should be able to generate a signal like this." Commander Alex Stone approached from the navigation station. He was Jake's second in command, a careful man who always thought about the risks. "Captain, maybe we should report this to Earth Command and let them handle it." Jake studied the readouts on Lisa's screen. The signal was definitely artificial, but it was unlike anything humanity had ever created. "How long would it take us to reach the Kepler 442 system?" "About 4 days at our current speed," Alex answered. Lisa looked up from her console with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I'm starting to decode parts of the signal. There are mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and what looks like language." "Patterns? What kind of language patterns?" Jake asked. "That's the strange part. Some of it looks like broken English. Very broken, like someone learned it poorly and is trying to communicate." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this could mean. For decades, humanity had been searching for signs of intelligent life in the universe. They had found planets that could support life, but never any proof that other thinking beings existed. Ryan's console beeped again. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger. It's definitely coming from the surface of Kepler 442b, Jake thought carefully. His mission was to collect scientific data, not to make first contact with alien species. But this was exactly the kind of discovery that could change everything for humanity. "All right," Jake decided. "Set course for Kepler 442, but we approach carefully. Alex, I want all defensive systems ready." "Yes, sir," Alex replied, though he looked worried. As the Horizon's Edge changed course, Lisa continued working on the alien signal. She had been studying languages her whole life, but this was different from anything she had ever encountered. The mathematical parts were easy to understand, but the language sections were frustrating. "It's like they learned English from old television broadcasts," she told Jake. "The grammar is wrong, and they're using words in strange ways." "Can you make out what they're trying to say?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "Only pieces. I keep seeing the word watching and references to Earth. There are also coordinates that match our solar system." This made Jake feel uneasy. If aliens had been watching Earth, why were they revealing themselves now? And why from a dead planet in an empty system? Dr. Ben Rogers, the ship's archaeologist, joined them at the communications station. "Captain, I've been thinking about this signal. If someone has been watching us, they might have been doing it for a long time. The way they use English suggests they've been listening to our broadcast for years, maybe decades. That's what worries me," Alex said. "If they've been watching us secretly, why make contact now? What changed?" The next 3 days passed slowly as the horizon's edge traveled toward Kepler 442. The alien signal continued, growing stronger as they got closer. Lisa worked around the clock to decode more of the message, but it remained mostly unclear. On the 4th day, they arrived at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The star was smaller and dimmer than Earth's sun. 3 planets orbited it, but only Kepler 442b was close enough to their position to generate such a strong signal. Jake ordered the ship to approach the planet carefully. Through the viewing screen, they could see a brown, airless world covered in rocks and craters. It looked completely dead, exactly like their records said it should be. "Sensors show no signs of life on the surface," Ryan reported. "But the signal is definitely coming from there." "Take us into orbit," Jake ordered. Full sensor sweep of the planet. As they moved closer, their sensors began detecting something unexpected. Deep beneath the planet's surface, there were structures. Large, artificial structures that had not been there when humans first surveyed this system 50 years ago. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I've decoded more of the message. I don't think you're going to like what it says." Jake walked over to her station. "Let me hear it." Lisa took a deep breath. The clearest part says, "We have been watching. We have been learning. You will come to us. Then you will understand your mistakes." The bridge was completely silent. Everyone stared at the dead planet below them, knowing that something was waiting for them in the darkness beneath its surface. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the sensor readings on his screen. The underground structures on Kepler 442b were massive, stretching for kilometers beneath the planet's dead surface. Whatever had built them had done so recently, and they had done it in secret. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple entry points on the surface," reported Ryan Bell from his communications station. "They look like maintenance shafts or access tunnels." Commander Alex Stone moved closer to Jake. "Sir, I really think we should call this into Earth Command. This is way beyond our mission parameters." Jake understood Alex's concerns, but they were 4 days away from the nearest communication relay. Even if they sent a message now, it would take weeks for Earth to respond and send help. By then, whatever was down there might be gone. "We investigate," Jake decided. "But we do it carefully. Alex, prepare a landing party. I want our best people down there." Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips stepped forward from her position near the weapons locker. She was tall and strong, with short blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. Kate had served in 3 combat zones before joining the Deep Space Program. If anyone could handle a dangerous situation, it was her. "I'll lead the ground team, Captain," Kate said. "Give me 4 Marines and 2 scientists, and we'll find out what's down there." Jake nodded. "Take Dr. Ben Rogers for archaeological analysis and Danny Clark for communications. Keep in constant contact with the ship." Dr. Ben Rogers gathered his equipment quickly. He was excited about the possibility of discovering alien artifacts, but he was also nervous. In all his years of studying ancient civilizations, he had never expected to encounter something like this. Danny Clark, a young communications specialist, checked his portable radio equipment twice. He was responsible for maintaining contact between the landing party and the horizon's edge. If something went wrong, he would be their only link to safety. The landing party of 7 people took the shuttle down to the planet's surface. The landscape was even more desolate than it had appeared from orbit. Red rocks and dust stretched in every direction under a black sky filled with distant stars. Kate led her team to the nearest access tunnel. The entrance was clearly artificial, cut into the rock with precision that human tools could not match. Metal panels covered parts of the opening, and strange symbols were carved into the stone around it. "These symbols aren't in any database I know," Ben said, taking pictures with his scanner. "But look at this." He pointed to smaller markings near the bottom of the entrance. "Those look like human letters." Danny set up his communication equipment. "Horizon's Edge. This is Landing Party Alpha. We're at the first access point. The entrance appears to be artificial and recently constructed." Jake's voice came through the radio clearly. "Copy that, Alpha. Proceed with caution." Kate activated her helmet lights and led the team into the tunnel. The passage was wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, and the walls were smooth as glass. Emergency lighting strips ran along the ceiling, glowing with a soft blue light. "Someone's been using this recently," Kate observed. "The lights are still working, and there's no dust buildup." As they moved deeper underground, the tunnel began to widen into larger chambers. Ben stopped suddenly when his light hit the first wall of the main chamber. "Everyone needs to see this," he said quietly. The wall was covered with images and text in dozens of human languages. English, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and many others were scattered across the surface, but it wasn't random graffiti. The text was organized, like someone had been studying human languages and taking careful notes. Kate moved her light across the wall. "These are pictures of Earth. Look, that's North America, and there's Europe." But the images were not satellite photos. They were detailed drawings that showed human cities, military bases, and industrial centers. Whoever had made these drawings had been watching Earth very closely. Danny pointed to another section of the wall. "Captain, you need to hear this. There are population numbers here for major Earth cities, and they're accurate to within the last 5 years." The team continued through several more chambers, each one filled with more disturbing evidence. Star charts showed human colonies and trade routes. Technical drawings displayed human spacecraft and weapons. Most frightening of all were detailed anatomical studies of human beings. "They've been studying us like laboratory specimens," Ben whispered. Kate's military training kept her focused, but she was beginning to feel very uncomfortable. "Alpha to Horizon's Edge. We found extensive intelligence gathering on human civilization. Someone has been watching us for years." Jake's voice crackled through the radio. "How extensive?" "They know everything, Captain. Our cities, our defenses, our weaknesses. This isn't just observation. This is preparation." The team entered the largest chamber yet, and Kate immediately signaled for everyone to stop. The room was filled with equipment that was clearly not human. Smooth, curved surfaces glowed with internal light. Strange machines hummed quietly in the darkness. Ben approached one of the machines carefully. "The technology is decades ahead of anything we have, maybe centuries." That's when they heard the sound. A low clicking noise coming from the shadows at the far end of the chamber. Kate raised her weapon and activated her helmet's brightest light. What she saw made her blood freeze. Creatures moved in the darkness. They were roughly human-sized but wrong in every way. Their skin was gray and smooth, their limbs too long and thin, but their eyes were the worst part. Large black eyes that reflected Kate's light like mirrors. "Contact!" Kate shouted into her radio. "We have hostile contact." The creatures moved with impossible speed. They flowed around the chamber like water, surrounding the human team in seconds. Kate fired her weapon, but the creatures seemed to know exactly where she would aim. They dodged her shots as if they had practiced against human weapons for years. Danny's RDIO equipment was destroyed in the first few seconds of the attack. Ben was knocked unconscious by a creature that struck him with surgical precision. The 4 Marines fought bravely, but the aliens knew exactly how to counter every move they made. Kate grabbed Danny and ran for the tunnel entrance. Behind them, she could hear the sounds of her team being overwhelmed. The creatures were not trying to kill them all. They were capturing them, studying them. As Kate and Danny reached the surface, one of the creatures caught up to them. It stood between them and their shuttle, blocking their escape. But instead of attacking, it spoke. The voice was wrong, like a human voice played through broken speakers. But the words were clear. Your species has been judged. You have failed our tests. Prepare for the consequences of your actions. Kate fired her remaining ammunition at the creature, but it simply stepped aside. It had known exactly when and where she would shoot. Tell your leaders, the creature continued. We have been watching, we have been learning, now we act. Kate and Danny ran to their shuttle and launched immediately. As they escaped the planet's atmosphere, Danny managed to repair the radio. Horizon's Edge, this is Alpha. We've lost the team. The planet is hostile. Repeat, the planet is hostile. Jake's voice was urgent. Kate, what happened down there? They've been studying us, Captain. They know everything about how we fight, how we think, how we react. This wasn't first contact. This was an ambush. As the shuttle docked with the Horizon's Edge, long-range sensors detected new contacts approaching the system. Ships were coming, and they were not human. The emergency signal from the Horizon's Edge reached Earth Command. 3 days after the encounter on Kepler 442b, Admiral Susan Davis sat in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon, reading the transmission report for the 3rd time. The words on the screen made no sense, but the evidence was undeniable. They've been watching us, she said to the assembled officers. For years, maybe decades, and now they're moving. Dr. Gary Adams, Earth's leading expert on alien biology, studied the video footage that Kate Phillips had managed to record during the attack. The creatures moved with purpose and intelligence, but there was something else in their behavior that troubled him. Admiral, these beings aren't just another species, Gary said. Look at how they move, how they coordinate. They're soldiers. Professional soldiers who have been trained specifically to fight humans. General Tony Webb, commander of Earth's Colonial Defense Force, leaned forward in his chair. How is that possible? We've never encountered them before. That's exactly the point, Gary replied. They've encountered us. They've been studying our military tactics, our weapons, our biology. They know everything about us, but we know nothing about them. The main screen in the war room displayed a map of human space. 37 colonies scattered across 12 solar systems connected by trade routes and communication networks. It had taken humanity 200 years to build their interstellar civilization. Admiral Davis activated the emergency communication system. All Colonial Defense Forces, this is Earth Command. We have a potential first contact situation. All vessels are to report to their assigned defensive positions immediately. The response was swift, but troubling. Several colonies reported strange ships at the edge of their sensor range. The vessels were unlike anything in human databases, sleek and dark, moving with technology that seemed decades ahead of human capabilities. President Helen Parker arrived at the war room within an hour of the first reports. She had been briefed on the Horizon's Edge incident during her flight from Washington. The situation was far worse than anything her advisors had imagined. What are our options? She asked Admiral Davis. Limited, Madam President. If these aliens have been studying us as long as we think, they know the location of every human settlement. They know our defensive capabilities and our weaknesses. Dr. Gary Adams pulled up the analysis of the alien message that Lisa Carter had decoded. The transmission from Kepler 442b was just the beginning. We're now receiving similar signals from multiple sources across human space. The main screen showed a translation of the alien broadcast. The message was being transmitted simultaneously to every human colony, every ship, every communication array in known space. The translation was simple but chilling. People of Earth, we are the vanguard. We have watched your species for 50 of your years. We have studied your actions, your wars, your treatment of your world and others. You have been judged according to the laws of the galaxy. President Parker felt a chill run down her spine. Judged? What gives them the right to judge us? Gary Adams continued reading the translation. You have polluted the world that gave you life. You wage war against your own kind while claiming to seek peace. You spread through the galaxy like a disease, taking resources and leaving destruction. You have failed our evaluation. The message continued, and each word made the situation more desperate. We are not the first to watch you. Others have observed your species and reported their findings. The decision has been made. Humanity will be contained. Your expansion will be stopped. Your threat to the galaxy will be eliminated. General Webb stood up from his chair. They're talking about extermination. Not extermination, Gary corrected. Containment. They see us as a threat. To other species, to the galaxy itself. Admiral Davis was already working on defensive plans. We need to know more about these Vanguard. How many ships do they have? What are their capabilities? Where do they come from? The answer came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors across human space began detecting massive energy signatures. Ships were appearing at the edge of every human system, not just one or two, but entire fleets. Colony Administrator Bill Turner sent a desperate message from New Geneva, humanity's furthest settlement. Earth Command, we count at least 50 unknown vessels approaching our system. They're not responding to our communications, and they're moving in attack formation. Similar reports came from other colonies. The Vanguard had positioned fleets at every major human settlement simultaneously. The coordination was perfect, suggesting a level of planning and intelligence that humanity had never encountered. Dr. Gary Adams worked frantically to analyze the limited sensor data from the alien ships. Their technology is incredibly advanced. Energy weapons that could destroy our largest ships in seconds. Shields that our weapons probably can't penetrate. And they're fast, much faster than anything we have. President Parker authorized the activation of humanity's emergency protocols. Every military vessel was recalled to defensive positions. Civilian ships were ordered to evacuate non-essential personnel from frontier colonies. Emergency shelters. On Earth and the major colonies were prepared for extended sieges, but even as humanity prepared for war, more disturbing information emerged. The Vanguard ships weren't just random attackers. They moved with precise knowledge of human defensive positions, supply lines, and communication networks. They know exactly where to hit us, Admiral Davis realized. They've mapped our entire military structure. The final part of the alien message was broadcast 18 hours after the first contact. This time, the translation was even more precise. As if the aliens had been refining their understanding of human language. We do not hate your species. We do not act from anger or revenge. We act from necessity. The galaxy has rules, and those rules must be enforced. Species that cannot govern themselves, that cannot live in peace, that cannot respect the worlds they inhabit, must be controlled. The message continued with a list of humanity's failures. Every war, every environmental disaster, every act of violence was catalogued and presented as evidence of humanity's unworthiness. You have been given time to prove yourselves. You have been observed to see if you could change. You have failed. Now you will face the consequences of your actions. President Parker convened an emergency session of the Colonial Council. Representatives from every human world gathered by holographic communication to discuss their response. We're facing an enemy that has been preparing for this moment for decades, she told the assembled leaders. They know our weaknesses, our capabilities, our plans. But they may have underestimated one thing. General Webb nodded grimly. They've been watching us at peace. They've never seen what humans can do when we're fighting for survival. Admiral Davis began coordinating the defense of human space. Every available ship was recalled to protect the core worlds. Manufacturing facilities were converted to produce weapons and defensive equipment. Humanity's greatest scientists were gathered to find weaknesses in the alien technology. But even as they prepared for war, everyone knew the truth. The Vanguard had been planning this for 50 years. They had superior technology, superior numbers, and superior knowledge of their enemy. The only question was whether humanity's greatest strength, their refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds, would be enough to survive what was coming. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The first Vanguard attack came without warning. Colonel Rick Hayes was drinking his morning coffee on New Austin Colony when the sky turned white with energy beams. The alien ships had appeared overnight, positioning themselves in perfect formation. Above the colony's major cities. Rick commanded the Colonial Defense Force, 300 Marines and a handful of outdated spacecraft. Against the massive Vanguard fleet, they might as well have been throwing rocks at a battleship. But Rick had not survived 20 years of combat by giving up when the odds were bad. "All units, this is Colonel Hayes," he broadcast to his forces. "The enemy has superior numbers and technology, but they don't know what it means to fight like humans. Make every shot count." The Vanguard ships moved with mechanical precision, striking at military targets with surgical accuracy. They destroyed the colony's defense grid in the first 5 minutes, then began systematically targeting government buildings and communication centers. But something unexpected happened. When the aliens attacked the civilian shelters, Rick's Marines fought back with a fury that surprised everyone, including themselves. They used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, and improvised weapons that the Vanguard had not accounted for in their planning. Engineer Maya Collins worked frantically in her underground workshop as the battle raged above. She had been studying the fragments of alien technology that Captain Morrison had transmitted from the horizon's edge. The Vanguard weapons were incredibly advanced, but Maya had found something interesting in their design. "They're too perfect," she muttered to herself as she worked. "Every system is optimized for maximum efficiency. No backup plans, no redundancy." Maya's team had been working for 3 days straight, trying to understand how the alien technology functioned. They had discovered that the Vanguard ships relied on a central computer system that coordinated all their actions. It was brilliant engineering, but it was also a weakness. "If we can disrupt their coordination," Maya told her assistant, Jerry Kim, "their perfect formations become a disadvantage." The battle for New Austin Colony lasted 6 hours. The Vanguard had expected to destroy the human forces in 30 minutes. But Rick's Marines kept fighting long after they should have been defeated. They used the colony's industrial equipment as weapons, turned mining explosives into bombs, and fought from positions the aliens had not predicted. When the dust settled, New Austin Colony was in ruins, but something important had happened. The Vanguard had taken casualties. Human weapons, used cleverly and desperately, had actually damaged alien ships. Similar stories came from other colonies across human space. The aliens were winning every battle, but they were not winning as easily as they had planned. Humanity was adapting, learning, and fighting back in ways that surprised their enemies. Captain Jake Morrison received the battle reports aboard the Horizon's Edge as his ship raced back toward Earth. The news was grim, but not hopeless. Every human colony was under attack, but none had fallen as quickly as the Vanguard had expected. "They studied us, but they studied us at peace," Jake told his crew. "They never saw what humans become when we're fighting for our lives." Dr. Lisa Carter had been working around the clock to decode more alien transmissions. She had discovered that the Vanguard were not acting alone. They were part of a larger organization, a galactic government that regulated the development of intelligent species. "The Vanguard are basically space police," Lisa explained to Jake. "They travel from system to system, evaluating new species and deciding if they're worthy of joining galactic civilization. Commander Alex Stone looked up from the tactical display. And they decided we're not worthy. Worse than that, Lisa continued. They decided we're dangerous. They think we're a threat to other species in the galaxy. The Horizon's Edge arrived at Earth to find the planet surrounded by Vanguard ships. The alien fleet was massive, hundreds of vessels arranged in complex formations around Earth's orbital defenses. But the human fleet was there too. Every available ship gathered for humanity's last stand. Admiral Susan Davis commanded the defense from her flagship, the ECS Defiance. She had been a naval officer for 30 years, but she had never faced anything like this. The enemy had more ships, better weapons, and perfect knowledge of human tactics. All ships, this is Admiral Davis, she broadcast to the human fleet. We're outmatched and outnumbered, but we're not outfought. Show them what humans can do. The Battle of Earth began at dawn. The Vanguard ships moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons cutting through space with deadly precision. The human fleet fought back with everything they had, but their weapons barely scratched the alien shields. Maya Collins watched the battle from her laboratory on Luna, Earth's moon. She had been working on a desperate plan, using the alien technology fragments to create a weapon that could disrupt the Vanguard coordination systems. The device is ready, she told her team. But someone has to get close enough to their command ship to deploy it. Captain Morrison volunteered immediately. The Horizon's Edge was fast and maneuverable, perfect for a suicide mission. But as he prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. The Vanguard fleet began to change its formation. Instead of maintaining their perfect attack pattern, they started to adapt to human tactics. Their central computer was learning from the battle, adjusting their strategy in real time. They're getting smarter, Alex observed. Their computer is analyzing our moves and countering them. But Maya had anticipated this. That's exactly what I hoped would happen. Their computer is processing massive amounts of data, trying to predict our next move. If we can overload it with too much information, it might crash. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Human ships across the solar system would begin random, unpredictable attacks. No coordination, no strategy, just pure chaos designed to confuse the alien computer. All ships, this is Admiral Davis. Forget everything you learned in the academy. Fight like pirates, like rebels, like humans who have nothing left to lose. The human fleet scattered, attacking from all directions with no apparent plan. The Vanguard computer tried to analyze the chaos, but there was no pattern to predict. Human ships used damaged vessels as weapons, rammed alien ships, and fought with a desperation that the computer could not understand. Jake Morrison guided the Horizons Edge through the battle, dodging energy beams and debris as he approached the Vanguard command ship. Maya's device was ready, but he had to get within a few hundred meters to deploy it. Jake, their computer is starting to struggle, Maya reported over the radio. The chaos is working, but you need to move fast. As Jake flew toward the alien command ship, he saw something that gave him hope. The Vanguard formations were becoming less perfect, their responses slower. The computer that had made them so dangerous was starting to break down under the pressure of trying to predict human unpredictability. Humanity's greatest weapon, Jake said to himself as he prepared to deploy Maya's device. We're too crazy to predict. The device activated just as Jake's ship was destroyed by alien fire, but it was too late for the Vanguard. Their perfect coordination was broken, their advantage lost. For the first time since the war began, humans were winning. The hidden facility on the dark side of Earth's moon had been built for exactly this moment. Dr. Rachel Keem stood before the most powerful communication array humanity had ever constructed, her hands shaking as she made the final preparations. Around her, the last leaders of human civilization waited in silence. President Helen Parker looked older than her years. The war had aged everyone, but seeing Earth cities burning from space had broken something inside her. Still, she had not given up. None of them had given up. "The signal will reach every corner of the galaxy," Rachel explained to the assembled group. "Every species, every civilization, every intelligence that can receive radio waves will hear." Humanity's final message. Admiral Susan Davis stood beside the communication console, her uniform torn and stained from the Battle of Earth. Half of humanity's fleet was gone, but the survivors had proven something important. "The Vanguard were not unbeatable. Are we sure about this?" asked General Tony Webb. "Once we send this message, there's no taking it back. We'll be declaring ourselves to the entire galaxy." Maya Collins looked up from her workstation where she had been modifying the communication array with salvaged Vanguard technology. The alien computer systems had been broken, but their technology was still incredibly advanced. By combining human engineering with alien science, Maya had created something neither species could have built alone. "The Vanguard aren't the only ones out there," Maya said. Dr. Carter's analysis of their communications showed references to other species, other civilizations. Some of them might be our allies if they knew the truth. Dr. Lisa Carter nodded from her position at the translation console. She had spent the last week decoding every Vanguard transmission they could capture. The aliens were not the final authority in the galaxy. They were servants of a larger organization, and that organization had rules. "The Galactic Council operates on consensus," Lisa explained. "The Vanguard can't just destroy a species without justification. They need to prove that we're a threat. But if we can prove that we're not, if we can show that we've learned and grown, they might have to stop." President Parker walked to the center of the room. "Then we need to show them who we really are. Not the species they studied from a distance, but the species we became when we faced extinction." The plan was simple but dangerous. Humanity would broadcast their story to the entire galaxy. They would show how they had fought against impossible odds, how they had adapted and learned, how they had proven themselves worthy of survival. First, they needed to deal with the Vanguard fleet still surrounding Earth. Commander Alex Stone had taken command of the remaining human ships after Jake Morrison's sacrifice. The Horizon's Edge was gone, but its captain's final mission had given humanity a chance. The Vanguard ships were no longer perfectly coordinated, and their computer systems were struggling to adapt to human tactics. "All remaining ships, this is Commander Stone," Alex broadcast to the scattered human fleet. "We've hurt them, but they're still dangerous. We need to buy time for the lunar facility to complete their mission." The battle resumed with desperate intensity. Human ships attacked the Vanguard fleet from all directions, using every trick they had learned during the war. They were still outnumbered, but they were no longer outmatched. Colonel Rick Hayes, now commanding the combined colonial forces, led a coordinated strike against the Vanguard command ships. His Marines had learned to use alien technology against its creators, turning captured weapons into improvised bombs and sabotage devices. "The Vanguard think they know us," Rick told his troops. "They think they understand human nature. Show them how wrong they are." On the lunar facility, Rachel Kim activated the communication array. The message began broadcasting on every frequency, in every language, using technology that could reach across the galaxy in minutes instead of years. President Parker stood before the recording equipment and began to speak. Her words would be heard by every intelligent species in the galaxy, but she spoke as if she was talking to each one personally. "To the civilizations of the galaxy, this is President Helen Parker of Earth. We are humanity, and we are about to be destroyed by those who call themselves the Vanguard. They say we have been judged and found wanting. They say we are a threat to galactic peace." The message continued, broadcast live across the galaxy as the battle raged around Earth. "The Vanguard have watched us for 50 years, but they have not seen who we truly are. They have seen our wars, our mistakes, our failures, but they have not seen our capacity for growth, our ability to change, our refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. Lisa Carter had programmed the array to include visual broadcasts showing the galaxy exactly what was happening. Images of human cities under attack, of Marines fighting against overwhelming odds, of ordinary people sacrificing themselves to save others. We do not claim to be perfect, President Parker continued. We have made mistakes, we have fought among ourselves, we have damaged our world. But we have also learned from our errors. We have grown beyond what we were. The broadcast showed the human fleet fighting the Vanguard, but it also showed something else. Human ships were protecting alien prisoners of war, human medical teams were treating wounded Vanguard soldiers. Human engineers were studying alien technology, not to destroy, but to understand. The Vanguard say we are a virus, spreading destruction through the galaxy. But look at what we do when faced with extinction. We do not seek revenge. We do not hate our enemies. We fight to survive, but we fight with honor. Maya Collins monitored the galactic communication networks as the message spread. Responses were coming back from across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly learning of their existence and their struggle. Some of the responses were hostile, supporting the Vanguard's decision. But others were different. Other species that had faced similar trials. Other civilizations that had been judged and found a way to prove themselves. We are receiving replies, Maya announced. The Centauri Republic is demanding an investigation. The Andromedan Assembly is calling for a halt to the attacks. The Galactic Council is being forced to respond. President Parker reached the climax of her message, speaking directly to the Vanguard and their masters. You judged us by our past, but you underestimated our future. You thought you were hunting prey, but you awakened something you did not expect. We are not the same species you observed 50 years ago. We have been forged in the fire of your judgment, and we have emerged stronger. The battle around Earth was reaching its conclusion. The human fleet was battered but not broken, and the Vanguard were beginning to retreat. Their perfect formation was shattered, their coordination destroyed, their confidence broken. To the galaxy, we offer this promise, President Parker concluded. We will earn our place among the stars. We will prove ourselves worthy, not through conquest, but through cooperation. We will show that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons, but our refusal to give up on ourselves or others. The message ended, but its effects rippled across the galaxy. The Vanguard fleet received new orders from their distant masters. The Galactic Council was convening an emergency session. Humanity had done something unprecedented. They had appealed directly to galactic civilization and demanded a fair hearing. As the alien ships withdrew from Earth's solar system, Admiral Davis stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship and smiled for the first time in weeks. They came to contain us, she said to her crew. Instead, they set us free. The war was over, but humanity's real journey was just beginning. They had proven themselves to the galaxy, but now they had to live up to their own promises. The prey had become the hunter, and the galaxy would never be the same.